Found out a little bit later that they are planning litigation against Bank of America, so there could be some of that going on as well, a little posturing. But at the end of the day, that's a pretty bold statement that perhaps had they done their due diligence, which under the circumstances, one can understand. With a name like Murduagh, you kind of can do what you want, right? People aren't checking up on you. We heard this before with loans. He could kind of just go in and get these loans. Nobody was making a big deal about it. But what do you make of that statement?
Well, I think that, to me, what it raises the auspices of, we can't just blame Murduagh for what he did. This was an elaborate system, but yet it was something that other people had to be complicit in by either looking the other way, not doing their job, not doing the due diligence. And he firmly pointed his finger at Bank of America, the behemoth of a bank, to say, look, you guys were sitting on the sidelines, and if you would have just made one phone call or done some simple task, not only would these people not have been defrauded, my company's good name would not have been tarnished, but perhaps, and this is where he throws this kind of wink in, perhaps these lives would not have been lost. Even so, he's implicating Murduagh in the murders without coming full-throated and saying, look, he did it. And I think that's where, you start getting into a situation where it's almost tainting the public, because he's coming out on the side of, look, Murduagh did this, but you guys could have prevented it.
Yeah, 100% I agree. And I just want to remind our viewers, that statement was released to the public. It was not stated in court in any way. And technically, this jury should not ever know about it, because they're not supposed to read anything in connection to the case. But fair enough. It is certainly something that I found very interesting. And finally, as the prosecutors, they talked a little bit earlier about not gilding the lily, not going too far with all of this financial information. I think that's a very real issue here. They need to establish the amount of problems and things that were created by these financial and the frauds going on by Alec Murduagh. But I don't think they need to go too far for fear of losing the jury at some point.
Agreed. This is a situation, math is not as riveting and captivating as someone who's sitting there telling you about what people did or said. At some point in time, you're going to add it up. It's a total number. And if the way in which the testimony comes in, the cadence and the way in which the witnesses are responding, absolutely did not. Absolutely did not. You don't need to hear that for 3 hours. You're going to fall asleep. You're going to lose track of the numbers. At some point in time, the point is made. There was large-scale fraud in the millions, and he did it. How much more do you need to hear after a morning of that? So I'm hoping, if the prosecution is really looking and paying attention to the rhythm of the trial, the pace of the evidence, they'll say enough is enough. Let's move on to what we're here to talk about, which is proving up the murders that took place, and that this person sitting there with the glasses on that we all had a ton of respect for is guilty of doing it. That's what the prosecution needs to shift to, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And these things are more art than science. When you're trying a case, you got to get a feel for, okay, this is enough. Now it's time to get back to the brass tacks. All right, Adanté, stand by. I do have to take a break. Coming up next.